guys, Hannah here and welcome to another mini Zentangle session. Today is week 5, day 3, and the materials we're going to need are a black fine liner pen or a black biro, a black pencil, an earbud, or if you have one, a blending tool. And this is a white square piece of card that measures 5 centimetres by 5 centimetres. If you would like to pause the video and go and get your materials ready, when you're sitting comfortably, we can begin. I'm starting with the pencil here, and as usual, I'm drawing a square border around the outside. And this is one of my top 5 favourite tangles. Now, for those of you that know me, you'll know that not only do I not sit still, but I also design products, manufacture products, write books, do all sorts of other teachings. And although the Zentangle method doesn't require any specialised equipment in the way of rulers and rubbers, I try and make my classes accessible for all, especially those that have dexterity issues or that are children. And the reason for explaining all of this is I designed this product about, 8 or 9 years ago. And it's I call a square dotty tool. And the squares each measure 10 millimetres or 1 centimetre apart. And they're just large enough to fit your pen in and pencil in, and you'll notice that down each side they've got little notches. These are spaced at half a centimetre, and so on. And the reason for showing you this is because the tangle that we're doing today is based on a dot grid pattern. So I'm going to show you how using the stencil and then not using the stencil. And the reason for this is because those younger children or people that have the dexterity issues, they might not be able to get a grid that's as straight as that. And again, we don't need to worry about it being completely perfect, but it's just for ease. So in my mind, the way that I look at this is visually I would subdivide this down so that I know where the center line is, and then I would draw my circles like that, and you'll notice that they're not too dissimilar, but they're not spot on. But either way, this is how we're going to start this tangle. So I'm going to use the grid, and I'm going to switch to my pen, and I'm going to start going up the page, and from that dot to the one above it, I'm going up and down, and you'll notice that I think it looks like a grain of rice. I'm then repeating it going to the dot above and then the dot above. So I've got 3 dots. 3 grains of rice. I'm moving over to the right and I'm repeating it again. I'm going to continue moving and adding these grains of rice between the 2 dots, all going vertically. I'm then going to turn it around and I'm going to repeat exactly the same. And I'm trying to keep the grains of rice a similar size, as in fatness, if that's the right way to describe them. Well, if describing them as looking like a grain of rice is the right way to describe them, but hey ho. So that's where I've got at the moment. We're then going to add another grain of rice, but this time we're going to go from corner to corner. Now, these ones, we don't want to take them too wide. And I'll show you for why in just a minute. So I'm doing all bottom left to top right on the diagonal in one session, and then I'm going to turn my tile again, and we're going to add the last grain of rice, except this time we've already got one in front of us. So I'm going to have to stop when I reach the first line and then imagine where it would go and repeat it. Stop the first line. So it looks like you're drawing behind it. And I'm going to repeat that across the page. And one of the reasons why this is my favourite is because I travel a lot, and when you're flying, sometimes your hand jiggles across the page and you don't always get what you wanted. So I tend to draw the dots on before I go, so I've got my grid already ready, and then while I'm on the plane I'll then sit and draw this tangle. And again, there's so many ways to decorate this. So you can see now we've got each square has got a grain of rice around the outside, an uninterrupted grain of rice going on the diagonal, and then the opposite diagonal you've got what effectively is 2 half grains of rice going underneath the first one. And now comes the fun part, and I'm just going to show you a few ways you can decorate it. Now, if I was going to colour the whole section, as in every single square, to get the meditative benefits from it, I would do all of the horizontals going that way, and then I would turn it and then repeat and do all the horizontals, because then you get into a repetitive movement, and by doing that repetitive movement you don't really have to think too much, and you can aid with your brain switching off. As you can hear, I'm concentrating now, so my talking isn't working properly. So if you were going to colour all of them in black, this is the way that it would end up. Now you'll notice that on this one I have carried on drawing. So because we can't fit in a full grain of rice, I would just draw up to. But again, you might like it just the square in the centre. But I think that this looks absolutely stunning, especially when you've only got a very few elemental strokes. I mean, everybody can draw a grain of rice. Shading wise, there's several options, but all I've done is put a circle where they all meet, and I've then using a circle motion, I've shaded it out. Obviously I haven't put my teeth in this morning because I'm stuttering all over the place. So if you were to carry on colouring in, that's the way that it would end up looking like. Okay, so here I'm going to blow your mind now. If you were to change it and draw it, instead of your grid going vertical and horizontal, if you were to draw your grid on a diagonal, you would get something that looks like that. Now, obviously I have decorated it differently, but if I turn it that way, look at how different it looks when I turn it that way. And here's another one using, this is exactly the same grid pattern as that. But when I've used this dotty tool, I haven't done every dot. I've done every other dot. So each of these dots are 2 centimeters apart. But look how beautiful that looks. Okay, yes, the shading is slightly different on this one. And I have drawn vertical lines. This one I haven't added much in the way of shading, and inside the rice I've just done an aura where it looks exactly the same. But for me it's exactly the same tangle. All you've done is you've just changed the original grid direction. So here is another one that I've drawn, and this is the same way that I've drawn this one, but again using the dotty stencil I've drawn them 2 centimeters apart. And because they're drawn 2 centimeters apart, that leaves me a larger gap, so I've just put loads of little dots in it, and I think that's quite pretty. And then finally, here's one I've done. Again, these are 2 centimeters apart, but these ones, the dots are drawn on the diagonal, and I just think it looks beautiful. And there's 6 tiles there, and the only 2 that are the same are those. And it just goes to show you how many different ways there are to embellish this. So please let your imaginations run wild. Change the way that you add your decorations in between the triangular shaped gaps. Add lines at the points where they meet. Put the shading in so that you've got almost a white space there. Change the size of the dots away from each other. Just play with it, have fun, and then you'll see why this is one of my top 5 favourite tangle patterns. I hope you've enjoyed today's session, and please join me for tomorrow, where we're actually going to do 2 for the price of 1. Well, yes, that's right, we're doing 2 tangles tomorrow, so I hope you're all prepared for that. I look forward to speaking with you tomorrow. Bye for now.